one of the biggest changes, if not the biggest change, is happening right now inside of the credit landscape. President Donald Trump and his administration have been going back and forth with the biggest credit company known as FICO. Now, FICO, which is short for Fair Isaac Corporation, they are the largest credit furnishing company, meaning they compose the majority of the scores here in the United States. So much so that 90% of lenders are going to use that FICO score that typically ranges from 300 to 850 just to determine whether or not you get approved for a house, for a car, for a jet ski, for a boat, like whatever it is, odds are they're going to be looking at that one specific company, which is going to be FICO. Now, there's over 100, get this, there's over 100 billion scores up to date that have been sold just through FICO alone. So they are not even close, by far the largest leader when it comes to creating credit scores. Now, here's the new credit score rule, and here's how this is going to impact you. The Trump administration announced that they have a new rule with the FHFA, which is the Federal Housing Finance Agency, that now allows lenders to look at not just FICO scores, but they also take a look at Vantage 4.0 scores, specifically for mortgages. Now, the reason why this score is going to be important and why it kind of levels the playing field, or at least it's starting to level the playing field inside of the credit landscape, is that the score is also going to include rental history now, which FICO typically ignored. People who pay rent on time are now going to have the ability to have that count to essentially boost or bump up their credit, which in my opinion, this is actually really good news if you are in the process of purchasing a home. And again, this is for you even if you plan on purchasing a primary residence or if you are planning on purchasing an investment property, because you can still use that product for either or. Now, a little caveat to this is that even though they're still rolling out this model, so lenders and financial institutions are essentially going to be able to look at both, the fact that you have two options now that you can use to kind of weigh your file against, again, it's a win. In my own personal experience, I remember my business started taking off at the time, and I had right around 45, 50K in the bank, but I couldn't even rent an apartment at that time. And the reason for that was because I ran my credit through the mill, just full transparency, right? But I was in the rebuilding process, which is why people ask me all the time, how do you know so much about credit? Well, I kind of put my credit through some stuff, right? Bad financial decisions. But anyways, fast forward is I ended up fixing my credit, but what kept me back from being able to rent something as simple as a one-bedroom apartment at the time, even though I had the cash, I could have paid 12 months in advance, no one wanted to touch my file, was because of some negative items inside of my credit, which is why I actually like where this is transitioning into, because over 85% of people who have a negative item on their credit profile is actually put on there not by accident, not because they did anything wrong, but simply because there's an error that's reporting. And a lot of times it's a mistake that shouldn't be listed inside of your credit profile. If that's you, by the way, let me know in the comments. Hey, like, there's stuff that's reporting on my personal credit that shouldn't be there. I know, like, I myself today I'm well more financially versed than what I was a couple years back. And I still check my credit just because, hey, every now and again, you'll see something that shouldn't be reporting on there and it'll plummet your score by as much as 100 points. So here's why this matters. The credit score is going to affect your ability to buy a home, buy a car, or just get flat out something as simple as a personal credit card. If you're on the business side, so for my business owners, I talk a lot about business content in here with SBA loans, business credit lines, business lines of credit, a lot of lenders, financial institutions, and government programs. So if you're doing government contracting, they're also still, even though you're getting funding and even though you're running your business through your LLC or through your corporation, they're still going to kind of take a peek at that personal credit score just to make sure everything is lined up. Even your ability to get a job. Like if you are a mortgage loan officer or if you go to work at a bank, guess what? They're going to take a look at your credit just to make sure that they're able to hire you, especially if you're like involved in financial type of products. You're definitely going to get your credit checked. Now, here's catch 22 though. I've met people that became customers that they've told me, hey, I actually missed out on a job or I actually missed out on a contract because of some things that were reporting on my credit that I knew nothing about, that shouldn't have been there to begin with, which is, again, why I'm such a big advocate of this change and kind of like evening out the playing field, so to speak. And then obviously the higher your credit is, the cheaper the money, all things being equal, you're going to get. The lower your credit is, the more expensive the money is that you're borrowing. Now, if you have no idea what makes up a FICO credit score, it ranges from 3 to 850 for the majority of the models that are out there. Your payment history, which is you making your payments on time, paying your bills on time, makes up 35%. The amounts that you owe make up 30%. The length of your history, which is how long you've had credit for, makes up 15%. New credit, so these are new accounts that you apply for and that you get, make up 10%. And then your credit mix, which is your different types of products. So you have credit cards, you have loans, you have mortgages, you have student loans that you've been paying on time. That makes up your credit mix. Now, this is where things get interesting, because there's different kinds, and this is where people get confused. It's like, wait a minute, Irv, like I checked my credit and I'm sitting at a 750, but then all of a sudden a lender or a financial institution, or I went to go buy a car, what have you, and they said that my score was a 690. Why is that? That's because there's different scoring models inside of FICO. You have your FICO 8, which is primarily used for things like credit cards and general lending. You have FICO 9, which is a newer type of model. And this emphasizes a bit more, like it treats medical debt a bit less harshly, so to speak. So if you've had medical debt, you'll know that one medical debt collection will drop your score by as much as 120 points. FICO 9 doesn't carry that weight as much, so it treats medical debt a bit more fairly, which in my opinion, especially if things are out of your control, why not, right? Why not lean more on the FICO 9 score? I think just maybe, just me being empathetic, I would prefer to not look at something that was out of someone's ability and penalize them for that. But again, I digress. FICO 10, FICO 10T, these are newer models. They're not necessarily used everywhere just yet, but we are starting to see them get used a bit more across the board when it comes to applying for things like funding. Now, there is also industry-specific type of scoring models with FICO. You have auto versions, and then you have mortgage versions. Speaking of mortgage versions, this is where, again, a lot of people kind of get stuck when they're trying to purchase real estate. Is you have your FICO 2, which is the Experian version. You have your FICO 4, which is your TransUnion version. And then you have your FICO 5, which is your Equifax version. Now, all things being equal, every lender is going to take a look at different criterias. But this is, again, why so many people are starting to kind of like get excited about this, regardless of what side of the board you land on politically. I just like to present the facts. I think that this evens out the playing field because, let's be real, a lot of people face issues with FICO scores because, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of mistakes that can just lower your score. So much so that you can even like forget to put a payment on auto pay, and all of a sudden you get hit with a 30-day late payment, even though you've been perfect across the board, and that'll drop your score from 790 to as much as 620. Like I've seen scores drop from 100 to 150 points just off of one mistakes. Medical bills or small errors, again, they damage scores. And again, it's one of the things that I highly dislike, just because with medical bills, it's like, come on, we're going to penalize somebody who they got into, a physical issue and now it's out of their control. And now we're going to penalize them for that. Anyways, different lenders may use different FICO versions depending on the score that they're looking at, because it's going to check different aspects of essentially your quote unquote financial health and how you've been managing your finances. And then the credit system, if we're being honest, it's just confusing and unfair to a lot of people. So I want to leave you with this. Here's what you can do right now to make sure that regardless of these changes that are happening with either Vantage 4.0 or FICO, by the way, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this change that kind of evens out the playing field and doesn't just rely on one company to just give your data out there. Now there's a couple different sources that you can look at as leverage. This is something that I tell my clients, and whether you are purchasing real estate or if you are looking to maybe go into what we call business funding, so an SBA type of loan or business line of credit, like whatever it is you want to regularly check your credit report. Now, I'm going to leave pinned as the first comment down below a source that we use as a tool that gives you your updated credit reports, and it gives it to you in real time. So this way, you know what's reporting, and if there's any issues on there, you're able to clean it up on the spot. But you want to check your credit reports because, again, it's going to allow you to see, okay, what's on here, what should be on here, what should be on here, and then let me have a plan of action if I'm going into a round of funding, like if I have to pay down my utilization. Is this a true utilization? Or, hey, wait a minute, I've already paid this down. Let me contact this company, let them know, wait a minute, I don't owe you guys this amount. Go ahead and update that for me, please. So paying your bills on time and also monitoring the age of your history, because those two components alone make up 65% of your FICO score, which again, you can get by simply monitoring your credit with an up-to-date tool that allows you to get all the right sources from the right places in the right time. Avoiding opening up too many accounts. This is a big mistake that I see. Again, whether you're purchasing real estate, whether you are looking to get into some type of business funding, opening up too many accounts too quickly will start to hurt your score, not just from you getting a hard inquiry, because that'll affect your score 3 to 5 points, but just from a new account perspective, it starts to look like you're credit fishing. Essentially, you want to track your rental payments as well, because this is what's going to get integrated, or is being integrated, I should say, with Vantage 4.0. So this is going to include your rental history, which is going to start reporting those on-time payments. So bottom line, FICO scores, which have been and still have been like sold and used by millions, sold in the billions year over year, they're still going to be used. So it's not, at least at the time of this recording, it's not a complete wipeout of the FICO score. But what it does do, it gives lenders, financial institutions, and us consumers options that we can use to say, hey, maybe my FICO doesn't have the best data, but my Vantage does, just because the scoring metrics on each of these type of models are going to change. But in my opinion, if FICO doesn't step up, and if they don't start including, again, just my opinion, and they don't start including rental payment history for a lot of consumers, because a lot of, I think it's whatever the stat is, I think it's over 56% of country, like of the people that live here in this country, rent. Could be more, could be less. You let me know down in the comments. Go ahead and fact check that. But I think that FICO needs to start stepping that up. And I think that if they don't, we're going to see way more financial institutions and lenders start to use the Vantage Score 4.0, because it's going to give consumers favorable results to allow them to get into investments, to allow them to get the funding that they need to continue to run and operate their businesses. But let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this change and what your experience has been with FICO. Like you saw mine. I think that there's a lot of room for revamp and overhaul inside of the credit space. I'll leave that linked for you down below as well, so you can grab a copy of that tool. But I will see you in the next video. Bye.